Computer. Hello, Nicole. I appreciate you joining me. I know that
Thank
you
you, Jennifer.
have a new book out on technology and mental health, and that you're also an advocate and a family member of an individual with lived experience of psychosis. Before we
This is
get
all true.
started, can you tell me about what made you want to put this into the world? What made you want to create this?
Well, it's funny is as a caregiver and someone who just, I reconstructed my life to really embrace the world of serious mental illness in the ways that seemed appropriate. But, I had a long corporate career in technology. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I know there's a ton of apps out there, but I don't know which ones exist. I know that there's a lot of worry around AI, but I'm sure it's being used. People just may not know how. I I know there's other stuff like around deep brain stimulation or ECT or transmagnetic stimulation. There's all these technology-driven solutions that can complement medication, that can give families more than a pill. And that's one of the things that really struck me is as I thought about it and I started to do some of my research, when you're in this space, first and foremost, all right, you go and you get your psychiatrist, you get your diagnosis, you get your medication, you show up to every appointment. But yet, you still, as a caregiver, or even someone who's diagnosed, might be up at 2 o'clock in the morning Googling, what are my symptoms? What's happening to me? Because even though you check, 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 do all the right things, life happens in between. Life happens in between taking a dose. Life happens after you've seen the doctor. Life happens. And then what? And so what's interesting is there are all of these potential ways to help that person or that family through the use of technology. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's almost like who cares about the technology other than the fact that it can now open up a plethora of options that people didn't know existed. And so it could be something that's more crisis related, or it could be from a pure management perspective, like managing meds or managing your life or managing things like that, managing money, or paperwork, that kind of stuff. And so knowing that these apps can fill a gap that exists today in so many of our lives. I wanted to write it. And that was a long intro on my part in terms of why I wrote it. But there we go.
Well, it's a wonderful intro. I think it's so interesting you talk about these apps, something that you can access 24 hours a day, because it's really tricky, I think, to access a clinician 24 hours a day. It's just not possible. But you also talk about these as things that would be combined with psychological and medical treatment rather than instead of.
And a lot of these apps, particularly the ones that are more evidence-based, like if you go on to the App Store, right, and you look for, help me manage my mood, you're going to get 100 apps. There's just a ton of them out there. If you're looking for a kind of mood tracker, but the ones that are evidence-based, the ones that have gone through the rigor of the scientific review process, typically couple the app with like peer-based support, some sort of clinician support, case manager support, whoever it might be, that is really helping to kind of link the clinician with the individual and the app. So the app is the facilitator back into the world of the clinician and or the world of the caregiver and of course the person who might be diagnosed with whatever they're diagnosed with. And so what's nice is many of these apps, you almost don't want them as a standalone. You want that integration with the people who are going to help you understand what you're recording. Like there's an app, I think it's so cool. There's the company's called A for I, App for Independence. And part of what they have in their app is where there's a button you push and it helps you understand, am I hallucinating? Do you hear the same voice I hear? And for somebody who might be spinning down into psychosis, who maybe was stable a week ago and is now less stable, they can press the button and the button can basically tell them, no, there's ambient noise in the background, but there's no voice per se. There's
Wow.
no tiger roaring. There's nothing is happening. And so to me, I think like there's these applications of technology that are so straightforward. Here's another fun one. So let's say Jennifer hasn't slept. Night one, you haven't slept and your watch tracked you, right? You haven't slept tonight two. Your watch is tracking you. Night three, you still don't sleep. Guess what? There can be a notification from the app that connects to your phone to your caregiver or your clinician that says, hey, Jennifer hasn't slept in 3 nights. Someone needs to do a wellness check,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
So there's like all these beautiful examples of how technology can bring the clinician closer to the patient at the time when before crisis happens, to avoid hospitalization, to find out what's going on, to maybe tweak a medication, to do whatever's needed to get them faster support and avoid the crisis. And if you think about, challenges particularly the community that struggles with psychosis has, where, getting to a hospital, getting good care at a hospital, getting a bed in a treatment facility, all those kinds of things. These are not easy things to do, right? The system is rigged against the community that might have psychosis of whatever variety, whether it's schizophrenia, PTSD, depression, borderline, any of the conditions that might end up in psychosis, all are going to struggle with the same process of getting admitted and then getting a bed in a psychiatric hospital. Well, if technology can avoid all that for that person, if technology can bring that clinician sooner back into their lives to find out what's going on with meds and get them in a better position, haven't we all succeeded? And to me, that was why this book became more and more of a passion project for me because I realized the power.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I heard you had a deck of some of these applications.
Well, actually, yeah, what I have is, let me share my screen. Oh, there we go. I sent a request. All right, sweet. Okay, get this in presentation mode. There we go. Do you see it?
Yes, yes, I do. And
All
that's the
right.
name of your book as well.
That's the
Connected.
name of my book,
Yes.
Connected Care. I went more broadly. Like my experience as a caregiver is in the world of schizophrenia. But the reality is kind of all these apps, if they work for someone with schizophrenia, they're going to work for someone who has borderline or PTSD or depression or bipolar or whatever it might be, because psychosis is the leading indicator. And that's the thing that these apps really can help with. So, all right. So as I mentioned, right, this is our reality in terms of that sort of in between from the appointment to when things might spin out of control. And, I want to call out a couple things. So first of all, if you see here cutting medication costs on the left-hand side. Well, I list about 60 portals that pharmaceutical companies have created, and these portals help with financial issues, right? If you're trying to get a particular medication, a lot of them have education about the illness it's treating and just like broad information. A lot of them have additional resources that nobody knows about. So I compiled all those portals, 60 plus portals. Um, we talked a little bit about the care between appointments. And then just navigating the system. So I've got a lot of resources in here that are technology based. I'll give you a silly example. We all have and I can't say it because she's right behind me, or not we all do, but many of us have an Alexa. I can't say her name because if I say it, she'll be like, what? What do you want? But anyways, you can use that kind of technology for medication reminders. You can use that kind of technology to really help facilitate a different kind of life. And it might be sitting right there in your living room. And so that's another area that I explore in the book. So as I said, there's apps and wearables that can track mood, safety, And then, of course, there's prescription digital therapeutics, which is, basically where these are the evidence-based solutions that are out there. Telehealth and monitoring. I do talk about telehealth in the book because the apps that in the past you logged in and you had your call. Well, now these telehealth apps are getting smarter and they're capturing more and more information in one place so the doctor can be more informed for the next meeting. AI and predictive tools that can start to understand, is that relapse potentially going to happen? Helping on the medical side with clinical decision support and digital phenotyping. I love the concept of digital phenotyping. What is that? Okay, here's what that is. Jennifer, and I don't know any of this, so I'm projecting to the world right now. Let's just say Jennifer, uh, Monday through Friday, doesn't leave her home from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. She's talking to clients, she's doing things like this. She's busy at home. Great. But every weekday from 5 until 7, she leaves her home. She's doing errands, she's visiting friends, she's doing things, et cetera, et cetera. She comes home, and then by 9 o'clock, she stops moving around, she's asleep. Saturday and Sunday, she does. Okay, so digital phenotyping is on one hand tracking your footprint. Where are you headed? On the other hand, it's tracking your movements. How much does Jennifer wave her arms like I do? How much is Jennifer quiet? What is her heart rate on a typical day? How is she from a body perspective? And then what it does is it builds an analysis of you. Here's what this woman's generally like. Great. Then, if things start to go sideways with Jennifer on a Monday doesn't move her arms at all. Jennifer, doesn't leave from 5 to 7. Jennifer goes to bed at 5 o'clock because she's absolutely still. Is that a trigger? Has something gone wrong with Jennifer? Maybe she has the flu, right? Or maybe something else is happening. So this digital phenotyping, and obviously there's privacy concerns and things like that, and really understanding that, but it could build a profile on you so that if things start to go sideways, it could be a reason to connect with the peer supporter, your case manager, your doctor, whatever it might be, your therapist, anything. And then there's VR and brain-based treatments. So using virtual reality for therapy, for psychosis, where, if someone hasn't really been grocery shopping in years, they can put on a VR headset that can simulate a grocery store, that can simulate how you go and you buy fruit and how you evaluate products and this and that, or a job interview. It can simulate a job interview for someone who's lived years at home and hasn't had an opportunity to go and get a job. And so anyway, so this is just a real high level view to the kind of stuff that's in the book. So it's apps, it's AI, it's brain-based treatments, it's these pharma portals. It's just, I've tried to get my arms around everything.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. One question I have is accessibility. I know that in my research, a lot of this, it seems like it's kind of cutting edge. I know some things are, available. Of course, ECT has been around for ages. TMS has
Yep,
been around for a long time. And,
yep.
most practices offer some telehealth, which is awesome. And there's plenty of apps available, both FDA cleared ones and not, for mood tracking and the like, but like the VR technology. Do you see this as something that might be accessible to people, for example, getting help at a community mental health clinic?
Well, it's a great question. I think the realistic answer today is likely not, right?
Okay.
I think it's going to be at specialty clinics, at research hospitals, at places like that for now.
Okay.
But, this stuff is coming fast and furious, just like AI is coming fast and furious. If I'm gonna wave my predictive magic wand, I'm gonna guess that within the next year or two, a lot more of this will be more readily available because VR headsets are becoming a dime a dozen. The key is making sure that there's the evidence based behind it, that this has gone through some rigor and some testing, and it's not just like, hey, here's go use a VR headset. Because obviously, when you've got a community that could be in psychosis or is prone to psychosis, you want to make sure what you're giving them has the scientific rigor behind it to make sure it's not going to cause a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that VR technology has been available at the VA for quite some time and used for certain PTSD treatments. And I know that VR technologies, a couple private practitioners in our area use VR technology for like phobias. Like you could put on I guess whatever the headset is, and you see a spider or whatever it is that you're afraid of, and they use that for graded exposures. But it's really exciting to hear about that coming to this population. I
Well, I
really
mean,
appreciate,
oh, sorry. Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. No, please, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say, I mean, to me, what I love, my brain puts a lot of this in buckets. Here, I'll go one more slide.
Mm,
Whether it's crisis, right? Or, how to evaluate an app before you trust it with your
mhm,
family.
mhm,
Um, whether it's like something urgent or something more from a planning perspective, that there's options that run the spectrum, and that there's a lot of thinking around the everyday practical areas that this community will struggle with: the job hunt, the going on a date,
yeah.
the doing something they haven't done for years, and need some coaching, right, in a very safe environment. I think all that's unfortunately, this community gets a pill, and this now becomes so much more than a pill.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I think clinicians will be very interested in these tools as well. Clearly we want to provide the best care that we can to our clients and whatever tools we can, because we only see people maybe once a week, if that, and there's a lot that happens in between. And so, it's really exciting to hear about this. I just wanted to give you like a chance if there was anything else you wanted to share before we before we ended.
I don't think so.
Oh,
It's on Amazon.
yeah,
um you know Anyone who's interested in something like this. Oh, one, yes, I said no, I lied. Yes, one more thing.
it's okay.
And that is, I wrote this book for everyday people. I wrote this book for moms like me, for clinicians like you, for just any human being to pick it up and be able to read it and say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Right? I wanted this to be plain spoken uh, uh, content that can help a community that's already struggling to get information, and struggling to get information that makes sense, that resonates, where they feel like they're walking away and they've learned what they need to learn, and it was clear, and it was simple, unlike what I'm being right now. So yes.
No, you're being incredibly clear, and I love that you had that PowerPoint, and I love that you have, all of this to share, and that you've made it accessible because, yeah, like even as a therapist, able to like look these things up, there's so much, and you're right, like vetting the tools are available and seeing is it FDA cleared, and maybe even if it's not, like, can we trust it? I think that's a really good question. Uh,
Yeah.
I
And
really,
then
really,
some
yeah.
of them, it's an interesting point. Some of the apps, it's not, for some of them, you can probably trust it, but the question is will it be
Mm,
efficacious? Like, there's a lot of mood apps out there, and they're fine, but is it gonna help? Is it gonna achieve what you're looking for it to achieve? And to me, that's the big. There's a lot of brain games out there,
mhm.
and they're usually not going to hurt, but are they going to help? Are they really going to help this community that needs the cognitive support? Are most of the ones that out there the two thumbs up? Unfortunately, probably not.
Yeah, I was reading about cognitive enhancement therapy, which I know is done in some community mental health agencies is awesome. And then electronic ways to boost that. But then there are apps that you can get that, maybe have some evidence, but whether or not it's applicable to schizophrenia is, a little bit less clear. And different pieces like that. Uh, so I really appreciate you putting this together. I appreciate you chatting with me today. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon, Nicole.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer.